Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Again, we're here on Sunday. This is a little different from some of our programs. We're still having one program per month, which we'll have one at the end of this month. And during the month of Ramadan, inshallah, which, believe it or not, is close. I mean, it's 3 weeks away, something like that. So this DVD that we're making now, we're calling it an infomercial because we want to take this DVD and we want to pass it out during this month, the rest of this month, and during Ramadan. During Ramadan, this will be accompanied by a introduction to Masjid al-Islam, about who we are, what we're doing, what we've been doing, what we're trying to do. But this one is what we might call an infomercial. So the first thing that we have to talk about is who are we? When you see us out there with boxes, the number one thing you might think of is these people are begging for money and da-da-da-da-da. So you can put that out of your mind. We are not beggars, we are mujahids. And for this reason, we are the only mujahids in this region. Mujahids mean that we are struggling for psychological liberation, intellectual liberation, and physical liberation from a Zionist oppressive system that we are all under at this time. So we say we're mujahids, not beggars. So when you see us, you think of us as mujahids. And also when you think of us, we want you to think of us as if we're mujahids, then we need what mujahideen need. We need your support. We need your help. We need your assistance. So when you're helping us, you're not helping beggars, right? You're helping mujahids who are struggling in the cause of Allah. And when you think about this area, the Washington, D.C. area, we have to fill you in on what we've been doing here and in Oakland. Here, we've been here about 32 years now, 33 years. That ain't nothing to us, but it's a long time for general people. And the thing that have got us this far is tafweed and rida. Wafada means when Moses, in certain situations, he says, I'm turning my whole affair over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? He's turning his whole thing over to Allah. That's wafada, that's tafweed. That's what we did years ago. We turned this whole affair over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because in studying our history, we had to see, well, what has happened to people like us, you know? And if we go back just 40 years ago, one of our great friends, who was the Imam down in Dixie, I remember in 1983, I was traveling around the country and I made a few stops here and there, and I was informing him of what was happening. What was happening to me as I went around. And he said, I said, man, when I was in Iowa, I went to this nice masjid, and I was talking to people about dawah, and they was asking me questions, and they said, well, how do we get to the good people? They meant Europeans. Actually, they're up in Iowa. It's a reasonable question. I said, well, you can go in prisons and what have you. He said, no, but we want to go to the good people. I said, that's where the good people are. A lot of good people, that's where you want to get a response. You go and visit the prisons. The people will be happy to see you, right? And that's the only place at that time in 83 and in the early 80s where dawah was welcome. right? It was welcome in those places. So anyway, when I got down to Dixie, I was informing one of the well-known imams and mujahids. I was telling him about it. He said, well, yeah, he said, man, that's not only what you just experienced was, I've seen the paperwork on that. That's a policy. It's a policy. It was just changed from MSA to ISNA. That's a policy, man. You know, to go, and the head of the Dawa was Daoud Zwink and another guy. They're both Europeans, and they was head of Dawa, and they headed it down there in Minneapolis, whatever that is, Plainfield, Indiana. It wasn't, but nobody but African Americans was coming to Islam, but they had their head of Dawa and the vice president was Europeans. And later on, even 10 years later, the president of ISNA was a European lady. Nice lady, but she was a European lady. And it might have been 10 European Muslims in America. I mean, there was more, of course. But you could see the trend. They had a certain trend. They didn't respond to the people that was taking the front line on struggle. Okay, we've been on the front line of struggle. And us, As-Sabiqun, we're still on the front line. Sabiq, you go out first, you win the race, you face the challenges, and then you keep on going about your business. You don't wait around for congratulations or welcomes and all of that. So when you see us, we want you to think of us as mujahids, not beggars. So we're going to take this DVD. After it's transcribed, we're going to deal for the rest of this month and for Ramadan. And Ramadan, this will be accompanied by a flyer that explains more in detail, which some of the things we'll bring out today. So our policy have always been one. You look at all the, if we were a regular organization, we would depend on management and advertisement and all that. We didn't do that. We never have done that. We, even before we knew the words, we turned our whole affair over to Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think I showed y'all one copy of 1986 when they had stole a lot of our, a lot of the records and things and the accordion folder and say, that's when we set this policy back then. And it's basically tafweed. And that means we've turned our whole affairs over to Allah. If that was over 35 years ago or more, then that turning our affairs over to Allah, according to what we've been dealing with, is exactly the right policy. And then rida means we're happy. You know, we say radiyallahu anhu, radiyallahu anha, we are pleased. May Allah be pleased with him. May Allah be pleased with her, right? So we are pleased. Rida means we are pleased with what we've gotten from Allah. We're happy with it. Okay, so that's the first part, that this might be an infomercial, but we want you to understand who we are and where we're coming from. And also, when you think about us, we want you to remember us in the think about us in the context in which we're living. We used to do demonstrations downtown a lot. And I remember we had one combination. The first part of the demonstration was dealing with Palestine. One group of people had 125,000 people in it. The other group had about 100,000. When we combined right down there on the mall, it come out to 200,000 people, or something, 200 and some thousand people. We're doing security, and I placed myself right behind a sister that was a congresswoman. What was her name at that time? The sister that was McKinney. I placed myself right behind her, and so was a few more brothers, for certain reasons. Because CARE and all these people who have found out to be criminals, and we knew that then. And also we knew where we were placing ourselves. We had her back. You look at any of the films from that era, we still got some. You look at it and you see I'm standing right in back of her. So the camera will see that we got her back. And the other people will see that we got her back. Why? Because none of the people that invited her had her back. She dealt with Palestine. She dealt with all those issues, right? And just like her father said, she said it's the Zionists on her case. When she was insulted and kept up all night, her being harassed down in Atlanta and all of that, you never saw CARE or any of them come to her rescue, right? And during those times, this is later, we've been under so much challenge that we haven't been able to respond to a lot of friends that we have. The brothers called me from Haiti 2-3 times a day. I'm going to just have to answer the phone and say, I would hate to say that, but we can't help you right now. Just like now, some years ago, when this brother was martyred, right? This brother was martyred in New York. In Detroit. This is also another friend from Imam Jamil's community. He was martyred in 2009. And his wife called and said, we don't even have, I think you attended that janazah, right? And the brothers didn't raise no funds, right? Not there. I didn't hear about any funds being raised. Did you hear about? Okay, well, just think about it. He's got a community. Everybody knows their economic conditions. Everybody knows what they've been dealing with. Whoever gave the khutbah, and I mean, if it was thousands of people there, like say it was 3,000 people there. If all of them gave $10, that's something like $30,000. That'll help get you to the next stop. That'll help, right? And they're going to get more because they had to travel from this far. They got a $100 bill. They're going to drop it in the thing, especially the janazah. They didn't say nothing. They didn't say nothing because they're part of a cabal. The cabal of Negro imams who are basically snitches, tattletales, and coons. That's what they are. That's the way we figure. That's their behavior. They're coons. Now, his wife called me and said, we don't even have a gravestone. I said, well, how much is it? So she said, well, $1,100. I said, just stand by the box and it'll be there in a minute. Now, this is 2009. This is when we're the encirclement of us. Now, the Imam out in California then retired a year before, so that meant he didn't pull back. The people we have in place are getting ready or in the process of launching attacks already from out there. So the days of having big money when we would spend, if we say we had our school here, you look at the beautiful children, let's say out of 10 years we spent $500,000, cash money, because the heating, this place, the heaters go on all day, and trips. If they had trips, Some of the teachers would say they wasn't able to pay for their trip. So I said, just take them anyway. Here, take the money and go, take them on a trip. And somebody was thousands of dollars behind. At that time, well, a lot of people was, but this one was over $3,000 behind, on the tuition, which is technically nothing. We're going to stop them from coming. I say you would mess up their grades and their other stuff. The kid's a good student, right? Straight A student, yeah. Okay. You can't punish a child for having dumb parents, right? If you take them out of the school, they have to go back with Negroes. We're not against colored people, but the schools,